Oh, hi everyone. My name is Peggy Wu, and I'm your facilitator for today's Founding Female panel event. Push through fear to start your entrepreneurship. So there are many fears that can arise on the entrepreneurship journey. And usually the scariest time is right at the beginning when you are first creating or thinking about creating a business. So today we will interview entrepreneurs across various stages of business, including our Ama La Vida's very own co-founder and CEO, Nicole Wood, along with two ALV members who will share how they deal with fears associated with starting a business. The goal here is to encourage those of you who want to push through fears to create a business you love. And before I tell you a little bit about myself, let me briefly introduce Founding Females and go over our agenda. So Founding Females is a completely free digital and in-person community for female entrepreneurs and freelancers. Founding Females is our CEO Nicole's creation out of her passion for championing other female entrepreneurs. In Nicole's own words, we are a community of people building something from nothing, and we don't need to do it alone. I'm sure most of you will agree that community is one of the most powerful tools for business owners. Founding Females is that community where we come together, we crowdsource ideas and solutions, and we provide emotional support and celebrate each other's successes because we can definitely thrive together. And today's agenda. Okay, so I want you to set your intention for today. Why are you here? And what do you wish to get out of today's webinar? Also, please know that this webinar is recorded, so be present. You can take notes. You can use the chat box to share your thoughts and ask questions. And we will be meeting the panelists and hear their stories. We will also have Q&A at the end. All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. Again, my name is Peggy Wu. I have a professional certified coach accreditation from International Coaching Federation. I do life and career coaching through Ama La Vida. I'm also a registered yoga teacher, teaching mostly corporate classes. And as a coach, I help my clients gain clarity and confidence in their life and career. And before becoming a coach, I was in commercial real estate lending for a long time and decided to pursue a life that I will be passionate about. It was a very hard decision to get out of the corporate world, and I'm sure many of you can resonate. I never thought that self-employment was possible for me. There was so much fear of the unknown, of losing that financial security. So the most significant change that I had to make was to shift from chasing what looks good externally to pursuing what feels purposeful and joyful internally. As always, I say this all the time, I'm really grateful to be where I am and doing what I love every day. And I want to help others do the same. All right, and as I mentioned earlier today, we have two Ama La Vida members, along with our very own CEO and co-founder, Nicole Wood, on our panel. And they're here to share their experiences with transitioning to a business owner and what they did to push through fear and doubt to start their own businesses. So without further delay, let me introduce them. So panelists, when I introduce you, unmute yourself, say hello, and tell us a fun fact or what you wish others to know about you. Okay, so I'm going to start with Samantha. So please meet Samantha Gagne, the founder of VS1 Travels, a travel planning business that specializes in group travel. She's also a realtor with Exit Realty Redefined, where she helps her clients find new homes or build their real estate portfolio. She's also a real estate investor herself. So Samantha, please say hello to everyone and tell us about you.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here and share my story. I'll share a fun fact. I took a gap year. Oh my gosh, I forget which year it was, 2009, 17 maybe. And that was between jobs. So highly recommend doing that if you have the opportunity to do that. But I've been to over 50 countries to date. So at the
50
time
countries?
at the time, because
Nice.
I was turning 30 that year. So my goal was to go to 30 countries by 30. So that was my goal. And I'm well above that now.
Very nice. If we have time, I want to ask you more about that, to talk about how do you make it to 30 countries so
Oh,
fast?
yeah. Yes.
Nice. Thank you, Samantha. So next we have Becky Martin, the owner and founder of BCM Organizing, where she gets to create organized, functional, and beautiful environments for her clients. Becky, please say hello and tell us more about you.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be part of this panel. A little fun fact about me is every time I hear Dancing Queen by ABBA, I have to sing a dance. It's just physical reaction.
Very nice. Sounds like we should get some music ready for you. We can see a little performance from Becky. All right, so now we have Nicole. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with Nicole, and many of you know that Ama La Vida is a career, life, leadership, and health coaching company, and we support clients in finding meaning in their work and personal life. Just like the name of our company, we are here to help our clients love their lives. So Nicole, say hello and tell us a fun fact.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Becky and Samantha. I'm excited. My intention for this is really to learn from you both and from this community. So thanks to everyone who's already opening up and sharing. It's a group of, over time, less strangers, but strangers to start, and to be able to have this safe space where we can say these really real fears and emotions we're feeling is special that we've come together for this. So I just want to start by saying thank you. I'll keep the dancing theme for this fact. I can't sing to save my life, but I am a classically trained ballerina and was a competitive dancer for 15 years in a very previous life to entrepreneurship.
Good. So you're not dancing anymore, Nicole?
Not outside my kitchen.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a few moments, actually for this part of the webinar, because I want all the attention to be on our panelists. And we're going to start our very first question. And Samantha, I will have you go first, followed by Becky and then Nicole. So this very first question I want to ask is, what did you do before you started your business? And what made you decide to take on the entrepreneurial path? Samantha?
Thanks, Peggy. So I was in healthcare consulting for almost 10 years, traveling every week, meeting with, C-suite individuals, driving, whatever initiatives, healthcare related, usually hospitals, healthcare systems, to help drive down costs, whatever that project entailed. And so during the time of COVID, which I know a lot of people did, was a lot of self-reflection about what was making me happy. And I knew what I was doing at the time was not something that I was super passionate about. I loved the people I worked with. That was probably the main reason why I stayed so long. But I think just ultimately what I was doing wasn't making me as happy as I could be. And then working towards someone else's goals, 50 plus hours a week, and not being able to do what you want to do the remainder of the time, and then, less sleep, all that kind of stuff. I just knew I wanted to pursue something that I wanted to do and do a better job at that than, helping someone else's dream.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, so I'm going to move on to Becky. Becky, tell us, what did you do before you started your business, and what made you decide to take on the entrepreneurial path?
So in my previous life, I planned conventions and trade shows for a living. So I was traveling a lot, and we would build like temporary spaces for people to network. And I was really more interested in creating permanent things that would impact people on a bigger level. So I talked with my coach about, what my career options would be after planning conventions and trade shows for so long, to see what would match up with my interests and all that. And I just really loved how organizing made me feel in my own home. And I hoped to create that other feeling for the people that I worked with. And I liked the idea also about being able to create my own schedule and then execute my own vision for the business rather than going along with somebody else's vision.
Good. Thank you. And Nicole?
My story is similar to Samantha's. I was a consultant as well, in management consulting, was living the life on the road every week, which naturally lends to some burnout at a certain point. And so I think less even struggled with the, hey, I'm doing this for someone else, and more reached the point of, I'm really busting my butt here for what? What's the path? Do I want to make partner? Do I want one of my clients' jobs? And when I realized I wanted neither of those things, I was like, okay, what's next? Luckily at the time I had been promoted, and my firm gave me my first coach as a promotion benefit. And it wasn't something I knew about or sought for myself, but found it so helpful and impactful that I continued working with that coach separate from my organization. And she kind of coached me through my career transition out of consulting into the startup world. And it wasn't like it was an overnight thing, like, okay, great, I'm starting my business tomorrow. It was something that was an idea, and then it was a blog, and then it just kind of grew legs over time as I realized that this was something that so many people needed, and very few people I knew were taking advantage of. And there were a ton of reasons why I thought that was the case: cost and branding and all of these other things. And so it just kind of sat with me and snowballed over time into eventually feeling like I have to pursue this.
Nicole, if you don't mind, I'm going to add a question here, and I'll ask Becky and Samantha as well. So from that idea phase to actually launching the business, how long did it take?
Probably about 3 years.
3 years. Wow. So you start thinking about it a long time ago. But did you know what kind of business you want to have at the very beginning?
Kind of. I knew I wanted to do something. For me, it wasn't even necessarily it was going to be a coaching company. It was, I want to help people take agency over their lives and careers and not resolve themselves to being miserable at work. Coaching ultimately became the mechanism that we do that, but it was really about that feeling and that drive more so than what the kind of product ended up being. But like I said, it was working with my coach, and then I blogged for a good year about that experience, and then I wrote a business plan, and then I built some content, and it really was about a 3-year process before we finally launched and I quit my job.
Very nice. Thank you. Becky, what about you? How long did it take you?
About 6 months to kind of get everything in line as far as like business plan, what am I doing, website, like you're just doing everything as an entrepreneur. So it takes a lot longer than you initially might think.
Yeah. Good. Samantha?
So I actually started with Ama La Vida with Johnny as my coach, October 20. When did COVID start? 2020. 2020, yes. And then he helped me see that that I was working way too much and I'd have all these goals. I'm like, yes, I do need to quit and, launch these businesses. So we made a goal that I was going to quit in May. And so I did. So 8 months.
8 months. Good. So I'm going to move on to question number 2. And we will start with Becky, then Nicole, then Samantha. What do you love about what you do right now? What's the most rewarding part?
I just really like working with my clients and being able to clear away the clutter so that then they can focus on what matters to them. And I'll give you a couple of examples. And you get such a close relationship with those particular clients. You get to learn so much about them and their life. So one client, she found her ice cream bowls that were like hidden way back in the corner of her cabinet. And she got so excited. She's like, now I can have friends over and have ice cream with them. And it's just, she was kind of hesitant to have people over because of the clutter, and she forgot about these dishes. And then another client, she had like a basement flood So her stuff was all out of order and she needed help like organizing it and putting it back in a clutter-free way. And she mentioned an exercise area would be nice. So we put all of her exercise stuff in one area. So now she has like a complete exercise zone. And we got so excited about like brainstorming, like, hey, you could add this, you could add this, you could add that. And she just got really excited. And I feel like it's really like helping them change how they live their lives. So that's really the most rewarding part.
Helping people change their lives. Yeah. And Nicole?
My answer's similar. I often say there's two parts to every coaching engagement we have. There's the thing that people come to us for, which is, I want to start a business, or I want a promotion, or I want to land this job. And then there's the underlying thing that they need, which in this case might be the ability to overcome that fear or to build their confidence in a new way. And so for me, like, I love it when I see our internal celebrations of like, I helped my client land this job and they got a $20,000 raise. Like, that's incredible. But it's more impactful for me to hear the ones where it's like, my client felt like they could speak up in this meeting for the first time, or they put a boundary in place for themselves that they were never able to do before. Like, that stuff is real. And then that carries over into everything they do. And so those are the moments that are really meaningful for me. And I would say a second half to that is the team here at ALV is as important to me as our clients. And because I'm working more with the team day to day than I am with clients, going back to the, I love building something from nothing, seeing the friendships, seeing this group of people who would have been strangers moving through life together because Ama La Vida exists is just makes it worth it for me.
Building friendship and moving life together. Good. All right. So Samantha.
I'm kind of along the same wavelength as well. I think just seeing clients being happy, whether that's from my travel business or real estate, knowing that they went on a fantastic trip and they made memories with their family or loved ones. Like, I just know how much travel has impacted my life, and just like, executing on whatever my clients' dreams were to go, and they had a great time. Like, that's amazing to me. And then also on the real estate side, helping them find a new home or building their, getting an investment property. It's just like stuff that I know how to do, and I'm helping spread that to, my network and my clients is just something that I really find very fulfilling. And then also when I get referrals from my clients and, repeat business, it just, actual testimony that, they enjoyed working with me and they want to share that with their networks as well.
It's so interesting that all of you have very similar answers. It's all about seeing people happy and making a difference in someone's life. Yeah. So would you say that? Yes.
No, I was just saying, I mean, what we're doing is hard, and like, there's all these rewarding moments, but there's also all these challenging moments where you're like, why the heck did I do this? Why didn't I sit around and collect a paycheck? Is this even a good idea? Like, you'll question yourself in so many ways. And I think you have to have something that you anchor around, that you truly care deeply about, that helps you to reorient yourself when you inevitably start to feel lost.
Yes. Actually, that's a really good segue, because we will be talking about challenges. And because today's webinar is not just about, having my business is great and wonderful, but we also want to talk about reality. So I'm going to move on to question number 3. This is where we're going to talk about fears. And we will start with Nicole, then Samantha, then Becky. Question number 3, what was your biggest fear related to starting your own company? And how did you deal with that fear?
I think there were like a million. Obviously, I think there's always going to be some component of fear of failure, but I don't even think for me it was like, oh, I'll be so embarrassed if I fail. I think it was the really tangible, like, what are the financial implications of making this choice? And what am I doing to my future if this doesn't work out the way that I hope? And I think another component of that can get really complicated and was for me was, what impact will this have on my marriage? My husband's a very conservative person. He would never take on an entrepreneurial venture. So it was a big strain on us. And I was worried, am I being so headstrong and determined that I'm missing being fair to his concerns and what he was hoping that our financial future would look like? And so I think there was just a lot wrapped up, both in the very tangible, like, how much money do I have in the bank and how much runway do I have? And then what can I emotionally deal with? And what am I putting my marriage through to make this dream of mine work?
So what do you come back to? Like, how did you decide, yes, let's push forward? Was there a moment or a mindset that helped?
I think I weighed the cost and benefits, and I knew I was an employable person. I knew I had saved for this and I had planned for this. And I knew if it didn't work out, that there was a path to recovering from that and that I would be able to find another job. And I believed that it would make me more successful in the long run for having the experience. Something I didn't think about at the time, but actually came up in the last Founding Females event that I love now, is from Forum's dad. Forum's our fellow ALV co-founder. Her dad was like, what did you spend on your education? Think about this in the same way. Like, you're investing whatever your salary was in this experience, which is an investment in the business and an investment in your own education. And I love that mindset. And I think that I kind of, without saying it so thoughtfully, had that same process where I was like, I'm willing to take this risk because I think the reward will be worth it regardless of the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I remember I watched that webinar as well. Forum's dad was such a wise person for saying that. Good. So now, Samantha, biggest fear.
I mean, I feel, Nicole, we're like on the same page. I feel like everything you say, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's exactly, but you say it very well. But Peggy, you've already alluded to this in your kind of journey, but financial security was something that I was just like, I have a really good paying job, and now I will have nothing, not nothing, but you're starting from scratch. And literally, as I started, I'm like, month to month, I had the savings, I had the runway. I'm like, okay, if I don't make it by this point, then I need to really reconsider what I'm doing. And so just literally going month to month, like, okay, am I gonna make enough to cover whatever expenses I have? So that was a big challenge in the beginning, but rest assured, it gets better. Your bank account gets growing. And so now I'm like, okay, I think I can do this more long term. So definitely that was the biggest thing, because I was just like, you need to plan ahead to make sure, and then have that plan of if things don't go right. But alongside that, I would say just doing right by my clients and not failing for my clients, I guess. Like, I'm okay failing, like, to myself, but I would hate for me to make a mistake and, they didn't get that house, or they didn't, I don't know, they missed their flight, but whatever it is, because, it got canceled and I didn't, inform them. So those things, and how I account for that is really, it's just like process improvement, and just like learning from mistakes and just making sure you don't do those things again. But yeah, a lot of different fears though. Those are just like a couple.
Yeah. So it sounds like you treated everything as a learning experience, and you try to do better next time for your clients.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like you just grow and get stronger, and then you get thicker skin. And I learned that a lot in consulting. So I feel like I can do anything now from that experience.
Yeah. Actually, Samantha, you hit on a really good point. A lot of times we have choices, right? We can choose to focus on what's not going well, focus on the fear, focus on maybe we label as a failure. And then it's hard for you to keep going that way versus if you shift your mindset and say, maybe this one did not turn out perfect, did not turn out the way I planned, but I'm learning something from it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good. All right, Becky.
So I think my biggest fear was just the fear of the unknown. In being an entrepreneur, you're responsible for like every facet of the business. And I did one job for 17 years, so it was a really long time. So for me, in order to kind of tackle that unknown, I signed up for like a certification class so that I could learn about the business. And I also found another organizer to shadow. And I thought that that was extremely helpful to see somebody else do what you want to do. Reminds you that it's possible. And you just learn so much more helpful information than you would just reading a book. So for me, that was really integral.
I think that's a good point,
Yeah.
Becky. And even still, like you, especially if you're leaving a job where you knew exactly what you needed to do, you knew exactly what your day was going to look like, to going to, I can decide from infinite possibilities what to spend my time and money on today. It's so liberating, and it's also so overwhelming because you're like constantly playing that game with both time and money of, is this the most impactful use of my resources right now? And I don't think that ever lets up. It just shifts over time. But you kind of grow to love it as well, because you're like, I'm in control of my destiny.
Good. All right, moving on to question number 4, and we will start with Samantha, then Becky, and Nicole. What do you do when things feel challenging in the business? If you are open to sharing, tell us about your challenges.
Oh, I have a lot of challenges. I mean, Nicole kind of just mentioned it. It's you own your own schedule, and now being beyond, so when you get started, especially, there are all these hats that you're wearing: marketing, operations, finance. Like, there's so many things, and you get overwhelmed with everything that needs to get done and still needs to be done, and a growing checklist that only you can do at the time because you're starting. So I think it's definitely balancing that. I'm still working on that for sure. And the way that I kind of overcome some of that, and it's day by day, but literally reaching out to my network, my coach, just to get another perspective, get guidance from someone who's been there before to help guide you, talk you through it. Literally meditation, really, kind of just also for me, I'm a planner, so I like seeing things visually. I'm like, okay, what are the 3 like things that I need to get done today? So really just prioritizing everything, but it is very overwhelming for sure. And yeah, just reaching out to your network and not holding it all inside and dealing it by yourself.
So who's your typical go-to if you have challenges and you need that support?
Yeah, so it depends on which business it is. So if it's real estate, I have a team lead that has been in the industry a lot longer than I have, and call him so frequently. I'm surprised he keeps answering my phone calls. And then on the travel side, I have colleagues, other people that have just started their business around the same time as me, that went through the training around the same time. I have travel coach, so literally there. And then Ama La Vida, I have Johnny too. That kind of just puts everything into perspective and gives me a different kind of point of view. I'm like, oh yeah, I should do that. So lots of people. So I'm never alone.
Yeah. So it sounds like you want to create that safe network, support system.
Yes, exactly. Because without that, like, I mean, you're a solo entrepreneur, but you don't have to be solo. You can, have the use your resources and people to help guide you because it's hard.
Yeah. So prioritization and support, and get
Yeah.
support. All right, thank you. So Becky?
Well, I'm a big planner, so it's just, there's so many like steps to take. So for me, I like to just write it all and break it down into little bite-sized bits so you feel like you can really tackle it and you don't get so overwhelmed by the fear. And then, to kind of tie what into Samantha was saying is like, it's okay to ask for like help and be vulnerable and to outsource. You don't have to always do everything, but just kind of know that that's an option, whether it's asking advice or delegating. So I think those things really helped me. And then another thing that helped me, and my coach kind of helped me with this as well, Brooke, was literally writing out your fear. Like, what is your fear? And then what's the worst thing that could happen? And then reminding yourself of like everything that you've accomplished so far. You already have a great skill set. You already have your friends and family. Like, you're not gonna, if something doesn't succeed, you're not gonna lose everything. So just kind of self-talk a little bit as well also helps.
It sounds like you're also self-coaching, Becky, that you're learning that these things work. So let's just keep trying these things. Repeat what works.
Yes.
Good. All right, Nicole.
I do a lot of the same stuff, and I too have many, many challenges. I think your business is like your baby, and it's so personal to you. And so the highs are really high and the lows are really low. I think over time, I think Samantha said this, like, I take the challenges a little bit more in stride, something that would have had me up at night, or like if a client canceled early days, it'd be like a dagger. I'd be like, what did we do wrong? They hate us. And I think I've learned to handle it all with a little bit less sensitivity over time, but the problems are just different now, as the team has grown and as the business has grown. I love what Becky said about reminding yourself of how far you've come. I think day to day, you hear all these like overnight success stories, and these are never really reality. And so it can feel like a slog, or that you take one step forward, two steps back. So I think looking back 6 months, a year, and having that time horizon to realize, okay, all these tiny little things, we have been getting better every day. You just don't feel it in the moment until you go back and reflect. And I always say, if I'm like embarrassed about the way that it used to be, that's a good sign that we've come a long way. Similarly with the support network, I don't think one person can be everything to anyone. So whether that's my husband for certain things, Forum for certain things, my coach for many things, other founders, talk to your competition. I think that's huge. People are scared to do that, and I think it's so helpful. I get together with other people building coaching businesses every month, and we share stuff because there's enough business for everyone, and there's more to learn than there is to lose. And then I think just being patient and knowing when to push harder and when to take a step back, which is really hard to do. But sometimes dialing it up is only digging you in deeper. And so you really just need to give it some space to reflect and get some clarity.
Good. Nicole, you mentioned something very important, the abundance mindset. There's enough to go around, because a lot of times, I think human nature, most likely we're operating with scarcity, thinking like, if someone else is already doing it and they're doing it so well, there's no space for me. But is that really true? Right? I always challenge these thoughts. Good. Thank you. Speaking of support, I know the three of you all are working with a coach, and I'm curious about why did you sign up for coaching? Maybe it was unrelated to your business. So I'm curious about, why did you sign up for coaching? What are you working on with your coach right now? Or you can tell us what you feel is the most helpful in your coaching journey. And we will start with Becky on this one.
All right. So I needed somebody to help guide me through finding a career path that fit my goals. I had been doing one thing for so long that I felt really out of touch with a career change, job hunting, interviewing, even what current possibilities were out there. And I also needed somebody, honestly, to hold me accountable, and ask me the tough questions that maybe I didn't know the answer to right off the bat, but it forced me to think about it. And it was on the calendar and I had to think about it and I had to dig deep. So I think that was really helpful for me for coaching. And then what we've been working on lately is more like the social media and marketing aspects of the business. It's ever changing, and to get somebody else's perspective is also really helpful on that.
Good. Thank you. And Nicole?
Obviously I believe in coaching and I think it's valuable for everyone. And so it had to be and continues to have to be a really important part of my support team and how I'm growing as a leader. My coaching's windy. We go all over the place. Sometimes it's really tactical about like, hey, I'm reorging the team and I want to think about the reporting structure that makes sense. Help me think this through. And similarly, it's that external perspective that can give me some feedback. Sometimes a lot this year has been about getting me out of the business, really being intentional about when I choose to get involved in different challenges versus feeling like I'm pulled into different challenges in the business, and figuring out how to enable my team to not feel like they have to pull me into things so that I can spend my time. I'm really focused on what is my job and what can only I do. And that's where I need to be spending my time. And then, I mean, a lot of it goes winding to personally. And I think this happens a lot in coaching, kind of like I talked about before, like you come for this thing. And I'm working with Betsy. She's an incredible leadership coach, and that's ultimately my focus. But I'm a relatively new mom. I'm struggling with some challenges personally right now with my health. And so sometimes it needs to go there because that's affecting how I'm showing up for the business and how I'm able to get through the day. And so I think just having that support system to recognize the little ways I take care of myself over here are going to enable me to be successful over here.
Thank you. And Samantha?
Yeah, so I started with Johnny just really to get another perspective of, at the time I was going through a lot of things through COVID. You're home all day, and just a different atmosphere from traveling each week. And so he really helped me see kind of how unhappy I was, and basically he was like kind of a therapist to me at the time, but that evolved. But basically helped me recognize, like, yes, I do need a change. I do know what I want to do, and really help me stay accountable and reach that and execute. Because I know I had those ideas and just really needed that push really to kind of execute and believe that I could do it too. So that was kind of like giving me more strength, like, yeah, I can. And like, yeah, I should quit my job, or not in so many words, but it just helped me like, yeah, this is the path that I need to take. Like, why am I wasting my time doing something any longer than I have to in something that I'm not happy doing? So it really gave me the strength and like the clear pathway to like, yes, this is what I want to do, even if I fit, like, let's just go for it. So really recognizing that, and then also keeping me accountable to whatever tasks we discuss, and having that. And Becky mentioned it, like when I see that meeting, I'm like, okay, got to do my homework, whatever it is. And I mean, I need that. So just the accountability is huge for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So what I'm hearing is how you used coaching is accountability and really force yourself to think deeper and to really face some of the issues that you might be just kind of bearing down. And also, I love what Samantha said, that Johnny helped you build strength and confidence, and to recognize that we need a change. I think change, we talk about this all the time, change is inevitable. We have different seasons in our lives, and sometimes we just need to be brave enough to embrace that. All right. Moving on to question number 6. This one we will start with Nicole, then Samantha, then Becky. Question number 6, what would be your advice for other aspiring entrepreneurs who are thinking about having their own business, but fear is in the way? What would be your advice?
Kind of been touching on it the whole time, and Becky said something that is my truest, honest answer, which is break it into the smallest, tiniest, littlest thing that you can do to get moving. Because I think a lot of people, I get this question all the time, like, how do you go from idea to having a business? And I think people expect that the answer is going to be like, you sign up for this one course and they'll do it, or like you are going to have this moment where you just know and it comes to you. And that is almost never the case. It's almost always you took one little step and it got a little bit more real, and you took one little step and it got a little bit more real. And the more real it becomes, the less scary it feels, and the further you are down on your path. And so I think it's about continuing to make sure that there's progress and checking yourself along the way to make sure you're not disguising procrastination as research, and that you are actually moving forward toward that goal. So I would say start small, and then circling back to what we've all been talking about this whole time is finding your support system and your network sooner than you think. So whether that's mentors or other founders or coaches, making sure that you have other people along the way to keep you accountable and build your confidence, because that's never going to not be valuable.
Thank you. And Samantha?
Yeah, completely agree with what Nicole just said. To add on to that, I would say not everything has to be perfect before you execute or put it out there. Everything I do, I just put it out, and then the process improves over time, or you just get better over time. So you don't have to have the best system in place. You'll figure it out. So I think having that mindset that you don't have to have the perfect product right away, it'll come over time. That definitely helps with the timeline and that mentality that you don't have to wait X amount of time to put something out there.
So it's more of a mindset. Not everything has to be perfect. Yeah. All right, Becky.
I think for me, it was like find something that I was so excited about that the fear was secondary. Like you just get like obsessively excited about something and you like trust your gut and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to do it and I will figure it out and there will be challenges, but just kind of, you're so excited that that's the most important thing was huge for me. And I would say that's not only for the business, but like buying a house and like other things like that. I would say another thing, and I've mentioned this before, it was like finding a mentor, not only a coach, but like somebody to shadow was really, really beneficial for me. So I would suggest that. And you would be surprised, tying into the whole competition thing, you would be surprised like how many people would be willing to help you out with their time. You think, oh, I'm going to call them and they're going to be like, oh, I'm a competitor. No way am I going to help you. No, started out like I called this person, I sent this person an email, and then we started with a 30-minute phone call that turned into several organizing sessions, and now we partner. So you just never know where it's going to be. So just start small, reach out, and build on that connection over time.
So Becky, I want to ask this question for Carolyn, just because I think it's so on point. Becky's Becky, how do you ask someone for that? I think Carolyn is talking about mentors.
Okay, so I went to a networking event and somebody mentioned to me, oh, I know somebody that's in home organizing. And my eyes like lit up. I was like, okay, that's awesome. Can you send me their contact information? And I reached out to that person. Hey, I'm looking to get into home organizing. I would love to chat with you, ask a couple questions, get the inside scoop on it. So we started with that. And she was like, yeah, I'd be happy to help you. So we talked for 30 minutes and then I just offered, would you be open to me shadowing you for free? Like, I will help you out with whatever you need. You direct me. I just want to see what it's like before I dive fully into this commitment. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. Come along. So it just really started one thing after another to build that up. And you might get somebody that's not interested, but I think you would also be surprised the number of people that are open to it at whatever level, whether it's 30-minute phone conversation or even that's super helpful.
I want to say most people are very, very willing to help. You just have to ask. And even if they don't respond, they said no. So what? That's okay. There must be someone else you can ask. All right. I do see all the questions in the chat box, and we will get to those. I want to move on to the next one so we can get to the Q&A a little quicker. So my last question, this is a very easy one for our panelists. How do people find you if they want to learn more about you and your services? So Becky and Samantha, can you type it in the chat box? If people want to connect with you, maybe on LinkedIn or your website, please go ahead and use the chat box to do that. And Nicole, if there's anything you want to add, feel free. And we'll go ahead and do that. Now, I'm going to turn on my slides again, so bear with me. Oops. And I'm going to share. All right. Oop. It's never easy, isn't it? Okay, I want to share this quote with everybody. We need to accept that we won't always make the right decisions, that we will screw up royally sometimes. Understanding that failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of a success. And that's from Arianna Huffington. And I think this is a very, very meaningful quote for entrepreneurs. So I want to share this here with you. And
Peggy's the queen of quotes. She always knows the right quote for the right moment. If anyone, I know she has some clients here. I'm sure you can attest to that.
Thank you, Nicole. All right. So I know our audience must have some questions. And before we get there, so feel free to put your questions in the chat box. We'll answer as many as we can. And in case if you want to stay in touch with Nicole, here's her LinkedIn, Nicole Wood, ALV, and my LinkedIn is on there as well, Peggy C. Wu. Follow us on Instagram at ALV Coaching. And we also offer free consultation, and I will put that in the chat box as well. And please feel free to join us in our future events. So let me put this in the chat. And we would love to have you become our member if you're interested, and we can help you overcome fear or whatever you need to create a business you love. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on to the questions. Okay, so I'm going to start with two questions. I feel they're kind of similar. They're also in the chat from earlier. I believe one is from Rick or Ricky, and the other one might be from Carolyn as well. So the questions are, the first one, what are the challenges related to revenues to start a business? And the second question, I feel it's somewhat similar. This person's interested in how each of you built equity to start a business and the sustainability of the new venture. So this is all related to money. So I'm going to ask our panel, number one, challenges related to revenues to start a business, and how do you build equity to start a business and sustain? Anybody wants to jump in?
For me, in terms of revenues and getting started, it was really first determining how much I would be charging from, so this is on the travel side, but how much I would be charging for those services and what was worth my time. And so, and the biggest challenge was getting those first couple of clients to start building revenue, right? Then alongside of that is, what are the monthly expenses that I need to account for, whatever that was. If there were subscriptions online to help me kind of, you know, I do have like online subscriptions for some systems in place that I have. So really, to back up in the beginning, I did have some dollars already kind of set aside to help me last a few months without having any clients. So just building that cushion in, because if, you know, I think for me, especially for travel, you don't get paid until that person travels. So there's a longer highway or whatever, longer road to getting paid on that end. So that was additional challenge there. But I think just having a plan, you know, a financial plan where you know where your revenues are going to hit, you're able to afford the monthly expenses, and having some kind of backup plan if whatever doesn't hit the way that you've planned, if that makes sense. I don't know if that was helpful, but that was just kind of how I started.
I would think like along the same lines, we kind of alluded to this in the beginning, knowing what you're willing to put towards this business before you get the revenue coming in, and then also what your expenses are outside the business, not just inside the business, like your personal expenses. And then consider, you know, not only what the market is and what you want to charge. So that's super important, doing your research there. I mean, this isn't really a fun one to answer because it's like you got to do a lot of homework, you know, and a lot of numbers and all that kind of stuff, to be fair. And then I also like to look at what are the options, you know, for getting your business out there to create the marketing buzz and stuff like that. What's the ideal option? How much does that cost? What is the free option? How much does that cost? What's the cost to benefit ratio? So really looking at your options and deciding what's the best one to fit you and your budget and your goal at the same time. So just really looking at that.
I think we were extremely naive when we launched about how hard it is to build revenues and how long it would take to get to the scale that we wanted to get to. We had very much an if you build it, they will come mentality. And now I have the complete opposite mantra where I will literally say to the team, sell it before I will build a thing. I need to know that there's a market and buyers for what we're doing before we'll take time and money to invest in building a new product or piece of tech. And so I think, to Becky's point, like knowing where those revenue streams are coming from, is that your network? Do you have a list of 20 people who could be a client tomorrow? Is that advertising? What does that cost? And can you run some small trials to start to figure that out? Or maybe that's a great place where you talk to mentors or competitors to start to figure that stuff out. And it's sobering to sit down and look at all of those numbers, but it's important to do so that you're not lying to yourself about what it is going to take, and that you can really have a realistic budget for the business and for yourself.
Thank you. So I want to thank Rick and Michelle for asking these questions, and we're going to move on to Alicia. Alicia asked, how often does fear and self-doubt come back? And if fear and doubt creeps back, And for you, what do you do? How do you manage that?
All the time. No, it comes back all the time. I think you always have like fears going into it, but it's really just recognizing that and knowing that that's normal and tackling it in some of the ways that we've already covered. And you're not alone in that.
I
Yeah, we
agree.
talked.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we talked about like the starting it is so scary. And I always joke, and you're gonna hate this, that the most confident I ever was the day I quit to start it. And then every day since then, I've questioned myself. And of course, like it's over time in some ways gotten easier, but I don't think that self-doubt really lets up. And I don't think there's anything new to add. It's similar to how we talked about combating other challenges, but it's so normal for that to happen and take different shapes over time. And that's okay. And you can still keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I concur every day this morning. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of, and I always have, I like these thoughts that are like, oh, it'd be so much easier to just work a set amount of hours and get that paycheck. But then you kind of go back and say, like, there's a reason why you left, because you love whatever it is that you're doing now. So just kind of going back to the why, and and being happier, fulfilling whatever passion that you have. So
Definitely come back to the why, the purpose of you starting that business in the first place. That it has to be a strong reason so you can stick to it. Yeah, good. All right, it looks like that's all the questions. And any last parting words? Whoever want to just jump in. Any last piece of advice or things you want to express?
I kind of wanted to tie into something that Carolyn mentioned in the chat. It's about like spending money. Being an entrepreneur, sometimes you think like, oh, well, I have to own a brick and mortar. I have to buy all these things to put in the brick and mortar. There's so many other options these days. So you don't necessarily have to go that route that takes a huge investment up front in that way. So just know that there are a myriad of options, or even hiring employees right off the bat. If you don't feel comfortable tackling some of those things or some of those financial responsibilities right away, look at something that's maybe a little bit more scalable to what you feel comfortable tackling and what you have the money to support at the time. That was a big thing for me starting my business. Is it like to own a restaurant, like would be just completely overwhelming, the brick and mortar, the appliances, the employees, like all of that type of thing. So there are many options out there.
Agree. Anything else, Nicole, Samantha?
I'll just say that by being here, you're taking that step. You're making a statement that you're here and that you're doing something that's important to you and that you're connecting with others. So please do take this as an opportunity to connect with the other people in the chat, to continue the conversation. I personally will follow up with every single person who shared a link to connect. Like, to go back to what we said earlier, people want to see you succeed. People want to share what they've learned, take advantage of this community, and thank you for spending your time.
yeah, and just to reiterate everything, set up time with us. I'm happy to talk to anyone and learn from you guys as well, because we're all taking this day by day, and whatever it is that you're thinking of doing, just do it. Because you never know what's going to happen, and you'll only learn from it and grow.
Yeah, my go-to is, if I'm going to regret at 80 years old that I didn't do something, then I'm going to do it now, because I don't want to have that regret. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, our attendees at the webinar. It's because of you we have a platform to share our stories. So thank you so much. And thank you, Samantha, Becky, and Nicole, as always. You guys
Thank you,
are
Peggy.
brilliant, amazing.
You're the
you.
best.
Thank you. All right, take care,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.